All right. Before Jim starts his presentation, I do want to read the copyright notice. Recording, whether audio or video, is prohibited except by the St. Louis Genealogical Society, which has permission from the speaker. Note that all slides and handout materials are covered by copyright law. You may download and or print a copy of each handout for your personal use, but no portion of any material may be photographed, duplicated, or used in any way without permission from the speaker. And without further ado, here's Jim Ross.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Jim. Let's get started. We are here to talk about artificial intelligence with an emphasis on how to use it for genealogy. But everything we're talking about applies in other areas of your life too. And so we're going to keep it simple. So let's get started. And so I'm going to do this in about 3 parts. So the first section, I'm just going to show you some examples just to get your genealogical imagination flowing. And I'm upfront, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. How am I doing this, or why am I doing it this way? Then in the middle, I'm going to circle back and I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is and how it works. And then at the end, or the third half, I'm going to do more examples now with an emphasis on how to do it in the most effective way possible. So, and my goal today is to tempt you to try it for yourself. So, all right, first up, a question. Who here has never used AI? Anybody? Okay. Let me ask you this. Have you ever started typing a text message? You know, what time is the super? And then it gives you word suggestions. So that's AI. How about you've typed something and the computer says, are you sure you want to use that word? Maybe you want to use this word instead. So that's AI. How about those green leaves? Anybody here know what those green leaves are? So that's AI too. But so all of these are AIs where you're not asking for it, it's just giving it to you. What I'm going to talk about today is when you ask for it. So when you sort of proactively are asking AI to help you. Before we get started, let's talk about the elephant in the room. People are, you know, the movies would have us believe that AI is going to take over the world.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
But I am not too worried about that. The type of AI in the movies is sort of self-aware. The type of AI we're talking about here is you're asking it to do something and it's going to do it for you to the best of its ability. It doesn't have evil plans. Think back over your life as new technologies have come, you know, they're scary, right? And then we get used to them and things change a little bit. I don't know, was anybody here before indoor plumbing? But not anyhow, so I don't think the robots are coming for your genealogy at least. So, all right, so like I said, I'm going to start with some examples. I'm not going to really spend a lot of time on how I'm doing it. Just sort of think about, oh, I could do something like that, or maybe it'll trigger an idea. All right, so first up, so this is an 1820 Polish birth register of my wife's 2 times great-grandfather, Pavel Soberlak. And there's this one word right there in the middle, and I could not figure it out. I can kind of fight. I've seen enough of these. I've been kind of fight my way through the rest of them, but I was really stuck on that word. I tried Googling whatever those letters were, didn't have much luck. So I asked AI for help. And so I said to AI, I'm having difficulty reading this Latin handwriting. It's from Poland in 1820. And here's my best guess of what it looks like. And I probably have some letters wrong. You know, what might it be? And then I said to it, to give it some context, It's on a Polish birth register under the father's name. So AI came back and said to me, oh, it's probably this Latin word, which means townsman or citizen of the town. And it went on to explain, that's different than rusticus, somebody who lives in the rural area, the farmers. And then it went on to explain why it makes sense for that to appear, on this document in that time period. So that's pretty helpful. All righty. Let's look at another one. All right, so this is a certificate that came down to me through my family. It's written in German. I don't speak German. I don't read German, but I was able to figure out pretty quick. It's from 1876. And I recognize the name of my great-grandmother. So I thought, oh, this is probably important. What could it be? And so I said to AI, I said, you're an expert genealogist. You specialize in 19th century German. I have this 1876 certificate. Please transcribe it word for word in German. And then please translate it word for word into English. And so I did that. And so this is what it gave me for the German transcription. And this is what it gave me for the English translation. And so now I know, oh, a confirmation. That's pretty cool. Oh, look, there's a godparent mentioned. Oh, look, there's where she's from. Now, one thing I'm going to emphasize over and over is when you're using these AI technologies, you have to check its work. It's going to make mistakes. So, in this case, and so there's some pretty gnarly handwriting in there. Is it perfect? Well, that's on me to figure out. And is it a perfect translation of German? Well, I would have to ask help for that. But at least I now have a gist of, oh, this is a confirmation certificate, and I probably want to follow up on it. So, okay. All right. Next example. So I found this on Ancestry on some distant cousin's tree. No source citation, of course. I haven't figured out what newspaper it is yet, but I recognize it as my great-grandaunt and her husband, and it's just filled with genealogical treasures. I see names, I see dates, I see places, I see addresses. And so how can AI make my job easier? All right, and so what we're going to do now is I'm going to jump out of the PowerPoint. I'm going to go live to one of the AIs, ChatGPT, because I think it really, seeing the slides is great. I think seeing it happen really sort of reveals the magic. So let's do this. Now, first up, the last thing you want to do today is watch me type. Trust me, that'd be bad. So I've pre-typed a lot of commands and I have them in this Word document. So every so often I'm going to pop over this Word document just to copy and paste. So don't be distracted when you're home doing this. This is like an extra step. So I'm going to ask it to transcribe the 2 obituaries in the attached image. So now we're going to go to, okay. So here we are. So I'm in my web browser. I'm in ChatGPT, which is one of them. I'm going to talk a little bit more about different options. But so for today's purposes, I'm using ChatGPT. And so I'm going to pretend I just typed that. I'm going to ask it to transcribe the 2 obituaries in the attached page. And so this little upward button here, I call that the go button. So I'm going to hit go. And so it's going to say, okay, well, upload an image. So let's do that. Okay, so here is, I'm dragging over. So this is the exact flip I just showed you a second ago of the 2 obituaries. Okay, so all right, here we go. I'm gonna hit the go button. And so I'm asking it to transcribe them. Let's see what happens. Okay, and so notice here, this little down arrow. All right, so that tells me there's more. I'm gonna hit and click that in just a second. But so remember, the image we saw was 2 obituaries side by side. And so let's see if ChatGPT figured it out. Go. And we're hoping the internet gods are smile on. Oh, there we go. Internet. All right, let's. Okay, here we go. So off it goes, transcribing away the first one. Oh, now it's figured out that there's a second one side by side. I didn't tell them there's one side by side. And so we're seeing all the names go by. So, here we have what looks like a pretty good transcription of 1 and then 2 obituaries. So again, you would want to check your work, its work. But for purposes of today, we're going to assume it's pretty good. And so now let's do something else. So now I'm going to ask it right here. These obituaries are for husband and wife. Extract the children from Kunigunda's obit and create a table. And in column 1, I want the name of the child. And in column 2, I want the name of the child's spouse, if present. So I'm gonna, and I really appreciate the applause from next door. That's just, I mean, I haven't gotten to the good stuff yet. Okay. Okay, so I'm in the same chat, so it still has that picture in its mind. And so let's see what it does to create these tables. And come on, internet, be good to me. I even came out to the library last week to make sure that this would go well. I did. Yeah. Okay, let's give it one more try here. Okay. Okay, here it goes. So it's analyzing. Sometimes it's super fast and sometimes it's super slow. Okay, something's happening. So, all right, remember I asked it to list all the children with their spouses in a table. So here we have a table with 8 children, 3 of them are married. Well, that's pretty cool. Let's do one more thing. All right, so now, same obit. I'm going to ask it, write a narrative description of this family drawing on facts from both obituaries. If there are any discrepancies between the 2, then highlight them at the end as a bulleted list. Well, let's see what it can do with that. And off we go. Okay, there it goes. Oh, it's taking the 2 obits, building a nice little story. So we see here, it talks about their immigration, where they lived. This is a nice write-up, a blend of the 2. But now here's where it gets interesting. So it looked at the 2 and it looks like Catherine might have changed husbands between her mother and her father's death. That's pretty impressive that it figured that out by itself, right? I think. All right, so let's move on. Back to here. Okay, so did AI make my life easier? Maybe. I could have transcribed that all by hand and plucked out those kids and written that stuff, but this whole thing took what, 3 minutes? Okay, all right, next up. So here is a photo that came down through my family. There's circumstantial evidence that it might be Annie Dinan Jones, my 2 times great grandmother. Yes, I am part Jones. Lucky me. Um, yeah, but all right, so I cannot prove this is her. But so what can AI do to help me? So let's go back to our preloaded prompts. All right, so I'm going to ask it, examine the attached photo, describe it in detail with emphasis on anything that would help identify the woman from a genealogical perspective. So let's do that. Now we're going to go pop over to our GPT. Okay, so I still have, here's the obits up here. So new topic, and this is completely unrelated. So I'm going to start a new chat. So up here in the upper left is this new chat. So I'm going to say what we just described. And if you remember last time with the obits, I did the prompt and then it said, well, give it to me. So this time, just for difference, I'm going to give it the prompt and the obit or the picture at the same time. Okay, so it has a picture, it has a prompt, and off we go. Let's see what it says. Okay, and so it's figured out what kind of card it is. It's starting to talk about her jewelry. And so let's just see what sort of stuff it gave us here. So describe the card, describe the lady, talks about what she's wearing. It's dating the photo from the 1880s to 1890s based on the clothing style. It's talking about the photographer. Talks about St. Louis. So all I did was give it a picture and it said, please describe it to me and tell me what interesting stuff I can find. Now, did it prove that that's great-great-grandma Annie? No, but the location is right, and the time frame is right, and her approximate age is right. So doesn't prove it, but it's just one more, compelling piece of evidence to support my theory. So let's go back to here. Okay, all right. So now we're moving into part 2. So I've shown you some examples. Hopefully they've caught your interest, some of them. So let's just briefly talk about what AI is. This is the nerdiest section right here. It's going to be brief. It's going to be simple. Don't panic. Stick with me. All right. All right. There's lots and lots of acronyms and there's lots and lots of terms. And so I'm just going to touch on a few of each that you'll just see over and over. You don't need to know any of these, except maybe that first one. And they're in your handout, so you don't even have to take notes. All right, so AI stands for artificial intelligence. Probably we all knew that walking in the room. So we're going to define that as a simulation of human intelligence by machines. LLM stands for large language model. And so that's a specific type of AI that is especially good at generating sentences, natural sounding sentences, helping writing and things like that, dealing with words. GPT stands for generative pre-trained transformer. What the heck does that mean? Does anybody care? I don't. The only reason I mentioned it here, so it's a specific type of large language model. And since it's built into the name of ChatGPT, which is sort of most famous one and the most commonly used one and the one I'm recommending, I just thought it would help demystify the name. I had to look it up to do this slide, and I'm sure by tomorrow I will have forgotten it. So you don't need prompt. So you've seen me do that. Those are the instructions you give to it. All those things I've typed in are prompts. Model, you'll see that word on the screen sometimes. And so that's the AI's brain. So there's a bunch of different ones, and each have their own specialties. But if you're just beginning, don't worry about it. And lastly, hallucination. Maybe you have heard in the media that AI is wrong a lot, or it lies, or both. So that's true. And doesn't intentionally lie. Well, anyhow, the AI community has named that hallucinations. So, and we're going to talk about that. Over and over, I'm going to say, check your work or check its work. And so that's what we're talking about. So I was going to try to hold questions to the end because my experience is I'll run way out of time. But yes, I'll stay as long as you want afterward. Okay. All right. AI programs, there's a bunch of them. So I'm going to talk about the big three and one more. So ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini are sort of the big three. And this is in your handout too, by the way. And you can see in the middle, the company that produces them. So Gemini is a Google product, for example. And then, so what are they good at? Well, they're all good at a lot of things. But let's just say ChatGPT is the most versatile. People say that Claude has the best writing style. So in my experience, ChatGPT does a really good job writing things. And they say Claude does it better. Gemini by Google. So Google does a lot of things well. And so in this case, it handles big data really well, or better than the rest, let's say. So, you saw me load up 2 obits and a picture. Well, if you had a 100-page county history that you wanted to have AI distill down for you, once you start getting into big things, Gemini might be your go-to guy. And then lastly, Perplexity is not one of what I'll call the big three. It's actually built on top of ChatGPT. But what it's especially good at is citing sources. So it'll give you links along with its answer. And so anybody in here cite their sources when they're doing their genealogy? Oh, one. Good. Good. All right. So this list is in your handout, as well as not on the screen, but in your handout is the URL. So for example, ChatGPT is chatgpt.com. You can go home, right after this, type chatgpt.com and you're off and running. It's that easy. Okay. How much do these things cost? They all have a free version. They all have a paid version that starts at $20 a month and up. What's the difference between free and paid? The free versions, in general, do almost everything the paid versions do. The difference is it will limit how much you can do it. So if you're using the free version, you might do 10 prompts or something in that ballpark. And then it might say to you, okay, enough of the free stuff. Come back in a few hours or come back tomorrow and you can do more. Or sign up for our $20 a month plan. But so my recommendation is start with the free. There is no reason to open your wallet until you've played around with them and, see if you like them and, see how they work for you. See if it's worth 20 bucks. I use these for months and months and months. I am using the paid ChatGPT today, just because I use this as an excuse to talk myself out of spending 20 bucks. And I didn't want to run out of prompts in the middle of the presentation. Okay, where can you use these things? They all work on your laptop, on your web browser. All of them have an Android app. All of them have a iOS app for your iPhone, or all but Gemini have a Mac OS app for your Mac laptop. You might remember Gemini is the Google product, and Google and Apple sometimes aren't, besties. And then Windows app. So over there on the right, I said for Perplexity, it's complicated. So technically, there is an app for Windows for Perplexity, but you pretty much have to be a computer programmer to figure out how to get it installed. So we're just going to say, no, there's not. Okay. Okay. Okay, moving back to the good stuff. Can AI do my research for me? It can assist you with your research. It's not going to do your research. Think of it as a coach. And even though in a lot of ways it looks like Google and acts like Google. It's not a search engine. It's not a fact checker. It cannot reach into Ancestry and look at their records or family search or any other website where there's a username and password that you have to navigate. But it can give you advice on how to use those platforms, and it can help you interpret the data that you get from them. Okay. What is it good at? Well, in broad strokes, it's good at 4 things: summarizing, extracting, generating, and translating. So it can summarize a big, long legal document and put it into simple language. You've seen it extract people from an obit. Generation, I'll show you an example in a minute of taking a bunch of dry facts and building something from it. And so translations, you've seen a little bit of German, legal language, archaic language, flowery language. A word of warning on the foreign language in particular. It might be right, might be wrong, but so I find it's good to get a gist of what it's talking about. But if it's important to have every single nuance correct, then you need to find a native speaker or pay a native speaker to help you out with that. Okay. Okay. All right, now we're going to start talking about how to use it in the best possible way to get the most out of it. And so experts in the AI community, people much smarter than me, I'm going to mention 2 names, Steve Little and Mark Thompson in particular. Steve is our speaker in May, so remember that name. So they recommend an effective prompt has 4 parts: a role, a goal, a task, and a format. And so what's a role? A role is you're telling the AI what part of its expertise to use. So, hey, AI, be an expert genealogist, as opposed to a English teacher. Nothing against English teachers. Eileen. Goal, what is the outcome you're seeking? I heard a really great, Mark Thompson had a really great analogy. So let's say I give you a pile of small cut up pieces of wood, some nails, some glue, and I say, assemble this. Well, you might eventually do it. But if I say, hey, here's all the parts for a birdhouse, assemble the birdhouse, you're probably going to have a much easier journey to figure out how to assemble this thing and much more likely to get the intended result. The task is, what do you want it to do? And the format is, what do you want the answer to look like? You want it to be a story or a list or a spreadsheet. And then if it's, let's say you're trying to learn a new topic, DNA or endogamy or something complicated that you're not familiar with. You could say, hey, explain this to me as if I'm a 5th grader. And you can read that and grasp it. And then it's like, okay, I got that. Now explain it to me like I'm a high school student, or now explain it to me like I'm a college professor. And so you can sort of easily ramp up your learning, sort of at your own pace. So, all right, role, a goal, a task, and a format. So here's an example prompt. So my role is, I'm telling AI, you are an expert genetic genealogist. Explain how DNA can help with my research. Tell me how to get started using DNA and what the next steps are to use it for genealogical research. And then create a bulleted list of step-by-step instructions. Express it in terms that an amateur genealogist who's never used DNA can understand. So that's it. So let's go back to our example. Okay, so I'm gonna just this part, this is the Word document. All we're doing here is not watching me type. So all right, here I'm back in ChatGPT. I'm gonna start a new chat up here on the left. This is a brand new topic. And so I'm pasting in what I just read to you. Explain DNA to me as if I'm an amateur genealogist, and click. And okay, here we go. And I can see by this button down here in the lower right, it's still working. Okay, it's done. All right. And so here it is. It's in steps. It's tell me what you want to learn. How do you choose the right DNA test? I see selecting a testing company. Now, obviously, we can't take time to read through all this here because that's not why we're here. But hopefully you're getting a flavor of the type of information it can give you on a topic. And so if you are about to try out your DNA or with your genealogy, it seems like a pretty good place to start. And then you can follow up with questions. It's like, oh, okay, good start, but what's this thing about centimorgans? Tell me about the centimorgans. Or, oh, I have endogamy. How does endogamy? So it's a conversation. Think of everything you do with AI as a conversation. You know, almost always the first answer gives you is not the final answer. You're probably going to have follow-up, or think of it that way at least. So that's that. And back we go. Okay. All right. Let's talk about how we can do stuff. All right, so I use Roots Magic. I'm sure some of you use other Family Tree Maker, Reunion, or Gramps, or maybe just Ancestry. But I use Roots Magic, so I'm going to use a Roots Magic example for my thing. And so all of these programs and systems, you know, they all have reports. Many of the reports are great, but so often they don't quite get where you want them to go, right? So what can ChatGPT do for us? So let's start here. Okay. So here we have, all right, so this came out of my Roots Magic. So this is a timeline report. It's very straightforward. We see dates, events, people, and places. And so this is for a family. And if I just scroll down, I see pages and pages, 9 pages of timeline for this family, followed by a whole bunch of citations. All right. And so I'm sure your genealogy programs offer something similar. So let's go back to our cheat sheet. And so, all right, so I'm gonna say to it, you're an expert genealogist. Analyze the genealogy data in the attached timeline report from Roots Magic. Base your response only on the information provided. Do not generate or assume details beyond the text. And identify research gaps and suggest next logical steps. And so before I do that, I want to pause for a sec and look at this middle section. Base your response only on the information provided. Do not generate or assume details beyond the text. So why did I do that? We talked about hallucinations and how AI likes to make stuff up. And so one way to mitigate that is you give it the information that you want it to work with, and you tell it only use this information. So what I'm effectively doing here is I'm saying, I want you to do something with this report from Roots Magic, and I only want you to use what's in the report. Don't go off and look on the internet and do other stuff. So let's do this. So I'm going to copy paste this. Come back to ChatGPT. Okay, and so once again, new topic, so new chat. And so here's my prompt. All right, and so you've seen me drag something in when I create the prompt. You've seen me you've seen me drag something in preemptively. You've seen me not do it and ask me for a thing. And so now we'll do one more. So here's this upload files. And so I'm going to upload from my computer. So depending on if you're a dragger or a uploader, I usually an uploader myself. All right, so I'm picking the timeline. So I'm picking the report. Okay. And so this is a PDF document. We've seen it do a scanned image. We've seen it do a certificate. So let's see what it does for us. Okay. So let's just let it scroll. Obviously, we can't read as it goes by that fast. Let's just take a peek at the kind of stuff it's telling us. So it's describing what's good about this report. And then, so I ask it for research gaps. And so here it is giving me suggestions on what to do to fill in the gaps. And notice it's broken it up by section. So right here we see it's talking about early life in Ireland and next steps. Then we move into immigration. And so next steps to look at the immigration. Now we're in St. Louis. Next steps, land ownership, business records. Oh, good, they're getting married. Good thing, because I wouldn't be here otherwise. And so, it goes on and on about, and then now it gives us a conclusion of key research gaps and things to do. So remember that all it had to work with was this. All right. So now let's ask it to do something else with that same report. All right. I want to share genealogical discoveries with my family, write an engaging narrative of this family. The report should be written for people who are not interested in doing their own genealogical research. Weirdos. They just want the story. Okay. So here we go. Okay, so let's see what it does. So first up, it gave us a sort of a research recommendation. Now we're writing an engaging narrative. We hope. We really hope. Come on. I should have come with a joke to fill in this slot. All right, let's do this. I'm going to hit the stop button. And I'm going to ask it again, see if we get lucky. Success. Okay, so now it's writing an engaging narrative. The first one was sort of the dry summary of facts. I looked away, so I'm not sure what you were laughing at. All right. Oh, bustling streets of St. Louis. This is pretty engaging. Wow, that's impressive. Tragedy and triumph. Legacy lives on. And so, you could imagine sharing this with family members as opposed to sharing that with family members. That engaging narrative came out of this. It's pretty cool. Well, let's do one thing. Let's do one more thing. Let's say, make it a poem that rhymes. Let's just see what happens. How about that? From Ireland shores so far away, William set sail one fateful day. Through storm and sea, his dreams held tight, a bright future, a land in sight. And then it goes on and on. That's pretty cool. Remember what we started with? So, all righty, let's move on. Here we go. Okay, so you all have your own genealogy reports. So your assignment is to write a poem, but don't do it that style. I ask you to do it in the style of Shakespeare. I'm serious, it works. Okay. All right. Unlike previous examples, I'm not related to George Washington. You may have heard of him. He's kind of famous in this country. So let's look at George Washington's will. So it's out here on this website. He died in 1799. So the only thing I want you to pay attention to is, so here's the will, and notice how long it is. It goes on and on and on and on, and even more, still going on. Okay, so there's George's will. So I'm going to ask it to do two things. I'm going to say you're an expert genealogist. Remember the role. Please read this will and extract every name mentioned. Create a table with one row per person. Table column should include the person's name, the relationship to the deceased, and any inheritance or instructions they receive. Use only the will provided for all the facts shown in the table. And then the follow-up prompt is going to be summarize this document in 75 words or less. Now, so I will tell you, when I did this at home, this took, 3 to 5 minutes, and nobody wants to stare at each other for 3 to 5 minutes while we wait for it to think. So I've just pre-done it. And so here's the table it created. So I'd ask it for everybody mentioned in the first column, the relationship in the second column, and then, what they got in the third column. And so we see it looks like 56 people George left something to in his will. And then that 75-word summary I asked for, remember how long it was when I scrolled down the webpage? So down there at the bottom, so there's about 75 words. It summarizes George's will. So imagine if you had a will in your family with that long and that much detail. Yeah, you could transcribe it yourself and pluck out all the people and do all the relationships. How long do you think that would take you? So it took ChatGPT about 3 minutes. Now, keep in mind, check the work. So once you had it, you'd want to put the will and the list side by side, but it'd be a lot easier to go check, 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 check. Oh, that one's not quite right. Than it would be to do them all from scratch. So, all right. All right. Remember when I talked about hallucinations? So there's two really famous ones. The first one was back in 2023 when ChatGPT first came out. Some attorney asked ChatGPT to write his brief to submit to the court. And ChatGPT put out a beautiful brief, and he turned it into the judge, and it cited all sorts of case law. But it turns out that some of those cases were non-existent. ChatGPT made them up. And so the judge was pretty upset, fined him, I think, $5,000. And it was a pretty embarrassing for him, but good lesson for us. He did it. Then in 2024, Google was just coming out with its AI, and somebody asked it, "Oh, how do I keep the cheese from sliding off my pizza?" And you probably heard about this. The late night talk shows were all over it. And the Google AI said, "Oh, well, put glue on it." So just to reiterate again, check the work. Don't trust it. All right. All right, what about images? All right, so everything I've shown you so far, you can do in the free versions. This last little bit here, so this is available in the paid version of ChatGPT. So if you want to do something like this, it's going to cost you $20. So the image on the left, I ask it, give me a picture of a genealogist in a library looking at a census record. And so that's what it came up with. And then the one on the right, I said, "Oh, give me an image of a genealogist struggling with a brick wall." And so there it is. So let's see how that works, shall we? Okay. So, all right. So just for fun, I'm going to ask it to create an image of an elderly grandpa lizard surrounded by his young grandchildren lizards, staring at him with rapt attention as he tells them about their family history. So let's just see what happens. Go back to here. Okay. All right, once again, new chat, new topic. So, all right, I'm going to ask it to show Grandpa Lizard surrounded by grandchildren lizards paying attention. All right, and so that's all I'm giving it. And so feel free to hit your stopwatch. Let's see what happens. Oh, how about that? That's not bad. So think how easy that was. How come the kids don't have clothes on? That's a good point. So let's just say it's rain. Darn it, this is why you don't want to watch me type. It's raining. They need umbrellas. Okay, there's the umbrella. Okay. Oh, let's do one more. Oh, no, don't do that. Stop. Let's make them gorillas. Thinking? Come on. Oh, here it goes. Okay. All right. So you get the idea. If you're good enough, if you're a great artist, you can do this yourself. But if you're not, you can use ChatGPT. And so, reminder. So this feature, this image generation. So this is the paid feature. So let's head on back here. Most of the images, or all of the images that weren't records that you've seen so far, I had ChatGPT draw for me. Okay, so we're wrapping up here. I really encourage you to try it for yourself. There's nothing to fear. You can do it for free. Don't have to limit yourself to genealogy. All the techniques we talked about here work in other domains, and vice versa. Any experience you get over there, you can bring back to here. I've used to great success for travel planning. I love it for software assistance. If I'm trying to do something in Word or Excel or name your computer program of choice, and I can't quite figure out how to do it, I tell ChatGPT, I'm trying to do X, Y, Z. And every time the instructions it gives me are better, more clear, step by step than anything I can find on Google or, heaven forbid, in the help section of the software itself. Give it a try. And people say, experts say, it takes about 20 hours of playing with it to kind of get the hang of it. And so I would say that's fair. And so with that in mind, I would like to invite you to come to our Family History Conference on May 3rd. The topic this year is Artificial Intelligence and DNA, Tools for Unlocking Your Past. We have 3 great speakers. Steve Little, who I've mentioned here several times, and he's he and his partner have been sort of my North Star of learning this stuff. He is our featured speaker, and we have 2 other great speakers. They're talking about artificial intelligence, they're talking about DNA, they're talking about the intersection of artificial intelligence and DNA. So if you found anything I did interesting today and you want to learn more, step 1, try it for yourself. Step 2, come to our conference on May 3rd. Early bird pricing ends on April 17th, but don't wait. You can sign up today on our website. So please do that. And it's both in person in Maryland Heights and via Zoom. So, all right, with that, any questions? All right, let's start within the room. How about right here?
That you were using somewhere so that we can try those?
I did not put them in the handout, so part one of the answer is no. Part two of the, oh, okay. All right, I'm gonna repeat the question for our friends on Zoom. The question was, these prompts I used today, do I have them available? No, but the recording for this presentation is going to be on our website starting tomorrow, Monday-ish. Let's say Monday. And so you can rewatch this and follow along. But really, it's if you just think of, hey, this topic is interesting to me. How do I, just get started? But no, I don't have them available. How about Jim there in the middle?
Will the video be on the YouTube channel?
Will the video be on the YouTube table? We have my partner in crime is hinting that we have a new YouTube channel that we have not announced yet till this moment. So we're going to talk about that next week. So TBD. Yes, how about in the back on the hat?
So have you ever tried to use it for a notable ancestor who may not have a Wikipedia page? Anybody can tell you about that individual who may have moved around the country.
So the question is, have I ever tried to use it for a notable individual who does not have a wiki page? And, what will it tell me? And so, no, sort of. The people that you saw, with the exception of George Washington, are just people in my family, not notable. But that's not its strength. So, no. Okay. How about way in the back? Yeah, you.
Save to a Word doc, and can we use it to search and download it and stuff?
Okay, so the question is in two parts. Can I save my chat to a Word document? And then could you repeat part two?
To download your ancestry file, will it work with that file to do?
Okay. All right, so can I save my chat to Word document? Yes. Everything you saw me do, I could just copy paste out of there and put it into a Word document. And can I download something from
Download the family tree.
Yeah.
To a file.
Right. Yeah, and so can I download my family tree and then do something with it? So yes, sort of. One example would be, a standard format is downloading your family tree as a GEDCOM. And so I haven't personally tried it lately. I've heard both some successes and some failures, and I hear it's getting better. So I would predict that you could do some stuff now and it will only get better. Okay. How about front row?
Don't use in the prompt that says, do not include assumptions or whatever, your own. And so the results come back. Is there a way is it indicated any place where it's made assumptions?
No.
Where it's not factual information, but so is there any way to know whether it did that?
Okay. So the question is, if I don't use the technique of giving it specific information to work with, and then so it gives me an answer, how can I fact check it? Is that, and so a couple things. One, you remember I mentioned perplexity as one of them. So that one in particular gives source citations for all of it. So like if it gives you a multiple paragraph thing, there'll be a little link next to each one that'll tell you where it got the information. So then you can go back to those sources. The other ones are starting to do that kind of thing, but it's not consistent. But generally think of it as if you found something on Ancestry that's unsourced and you're like, oh, this is great. where you just have to sort of just use the skills you have to go off and try to prove it yourself or disprove it. Okay. How about way in the back? I see you, but you already got one, so I'm trying to give everybody else a turn. Mhm. All right, so the question was, she uses perplexity. Or so the question was, in the room, she uses a Mac and she's wondering about this perplexity and it's complicated. So what I would say is you can just use your web browser and it'll work just fine. I'm gonna say it won't care what web browser you use, but I haven't tried them all. So, but I suspect it won't care. Okay, all right. Let's do some online questions from our Zoom friends.
Online question.
Okay, so Amy wants to know if you can transcribe audio files such as an interview with a family member.
Okay, so the question is, can you transcribe audio files such as an interview with a family member? So ChatGPT is probably not there yet. There are other transcribing softwares that do that. Having said that, I tried. So the paid version, the $20 paid version, so another feature that comes with it is voice chat, where you can basically have a conversation with it. It's really amazing. And so I had a recording of my wife's Polish grandmother. And so I just played the recording next to my microphone and asked it to transcribe it. And it did okay with my mother-in-law, who's a native English speaker, but the thick Polish accent of the grandma didn't do very good. So it's coming, it's not here yet.
Wants to know if it can recognize abbreviations in other languages because that's always been her problem when interpreting.
The question is, can it recognize abbreviations in other languages? Because that's always been her problem when interpreting. And my answer is, I haven't tried it. I have a strong suspicion it will, but I would test it and see what happens.
Okay, if you have follow-up questions after using a after ChatGPT responds to your original message, you start a new chat or add another message to the original chat. And if so, will it continue to consider the information originally provided?
Okay, so the question is, I have a chat. Now I have a follow-up. Time has gone by. Do I start a new chat? Do I go back to the old chat? What do I do? And so if you're signed in with an account, even a free account, it will remember all your old chats. And so you can go back to them even days later and put in your new question or your new prompt, and it will look at the whole history and bring it all back into its memory and then continue the conversation from there. And so it kind of depends on, does it lend itself to a new topic or is it best to sort of start fresh?
Okay, next question. Amy says she uses ChatGPT a lot for work and for genealogy. She usually works in a Google tab. However, sometimes ChatGPT will be blank and the right side menu will, oh no.
Uh-oh.
I just dropped my Zoom connection.
All right, technical problem for our Zoom question, so we'll come back to that. How about in the room? Oh, wait, no, sorry, gang. All right, let's do this. I'm gonna take one in the room and then we'll come back to that one. All right, right there.
studio photography pictures of family ancestors that were not identified. Can you use AI to see if anybody has uploaded and identified similar pictures?
I don't, all right, so the question is, she has some old studio photos of family members who are not identified. Can she use AI to see if anybody else has uploaded similar pictures?
And identified them.
And identify them. And so to my knowledge, ChatGPT, at least today, is not the tool for that. I think there are other services. I've heard of DeadFred is one. And then Google Lens is good at identifying things, but every time I try to point it at a person, it says, well, I'm not good at people. I think there are other services that probably do that, but this might not be it, at least not today. Okay. All right.
So Edie says she uses the Chat GPT quite a lot, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes Chat GPT will be blank and the right side menu will disappear completely. This can continue for weeks. She then starts working in an incognito window and has no issues. Do you know what the tech issue might be when this occurs? Is it her computer blocking Chat GPT or perhaps something else?
So the question is, she's in ChatGPT and then the right half kind of goes blank and disappears on her and she can't get it back. So I don't specifically know what's happening, but my first suggestion would be to just hit the refresh button in your browser. In fact, a couple times I kind of locked up here today, but I don't know specific. Without seeing it, I don't think I can do much more. Sorry.
Okay. Debbie says, can you use AI to identify the source for an obituary?
Can you use AI to identify the source for an obituary? Probably not, but I would try. So, nope. Sorry. Okay, how about way in the back?
Should you correct? Can you correct on ChatGPT if it gives you bad information? And should you? And will the bad information percolate just like it does on Ancestry?
Okay, all right. So the three-part question is, if ChatGPT gives you bad information, can you correct it on ChatGPT? Should you do it? And will the bad info circulate like stuff posted on Ancestry, bad trees on Ancestry? So if it gives you something wrong, can you correct it? Yeah. So all the time I'll be in a conversation with it and it'll give me some fact checking and it gives me something blatantly wrong. And so I will just say, no, it's not this, it's that. Or, you said there were 4 kids, where's Mary? And so it's a conversation. So think of it as a conversation. All right. Should you correct it? And what, anything you do, at least in today's version, anything you add to it stays sort of in that chat. So if it makes a mistake and then you say, no, it's actually this, it'll remember it for that chat, but it's not going to suddenly remember it going forward. And then will your information circulate? And the answer is no, but there's a phrase called training data. And so all these things have been trained on, let's just say let's just call it the entire internet. And so anything you put in it, I think there's a setting in some of them where you can say, do or do not allow my stuff to be used for training data. And so I don't think any mistake that happens in a chat is going to show up in somebody else's chat. But let's also take this moment to say, it is the internet, it is off in the cloud. And so before you load up personal information that is private, and I don't want anybody to know this, maybe this isn't the thing to do.
We have lots more online.
Okay, all right, let's do 2 onlines and then we'll come back to the room.
This is just rubbing your ego because Roberta said you were fabulous.
Oh, thanks, Roberta.
And our friend Mary McClure from North Carolina.
Hi, Mary.
Was able to get the garden cleanup done before it started to rain, but you are great. And then Cam wants to know, can he or she, can I upload a real picture of my grandfather and then ask AI to make him look like a teenager for a specific period?
Okay, so the question is, can I upload a picture of my grandpa and make him look like a picture? But I don't know, but I'm really curious. So here we go. Oh no, come back. All right, so we're halfway there. Let's just try it really quick. All right, so here's this picture of Annie Dinan. Make her look like a teenager. I'm skeptical, but we'll see what happens. Wow. How about that? That's great. All right. All right. We all learned something today. That's cool. And let me just take one more second.
Yes, that's Victorian.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so let's go back and so, all right, so there's the original on the left. And so by the way, on the right, I used the MyHeritage feature for photo colorization. And so I just fed in the one on the left, no instructions, and it gave me the one on the right. And so, but based on that picture on the left, ChatGPT gave us that. So, wow.
But the iPhone.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Okay, we have a follow-up question about perplexity. Are you recommending it despite the issues concerning plagiarism, bias, and citing low-quality AI-generated spam?
All right. The question is perplexity in particular, and am I recommending it based on its problems with, yeah, low quality. So full disclosure, I've just barely touched perplexity, so I don't have any specific pro or con recommendation for that one. And in terms of low quality, I mean, that sort of goes back to the hallucinations thing of these things are wrong. So what I do recommend is check its work. Don't trust it, and certainly don't publish anything that comes out of it without checking it. And speaking of publishing, if you are going to publish something, then you start to think about the ethical issues of, did I write this or did it write this, and giving appropriate credit where credit is due.
Okay, Daniel wants to know if there's some existing ChatGPT help document to help develop effective prompts.
So all right, so the question is there a ChatGPT specific help document to create effective prompts? I'm sure there are many. And so in the handout at the bottom, there's a whole bunch of resources, which are, half a dozen of many. Those I thought were good. The ones credited to Steve Little in particular. He talks quite a bit about effective prompts, and he'll be here May 3rd to tell you face to face.
No, and I think you've answered this, but you might want to repeat it. If these programs come as apps, or is it as good in a web browser? Because she's not really sure, or he is not sure how to download apps on a laptop.
All right, so the question is, are there apps versus how does using an app compare to using a web browser? I think it'll be just fine in a web browser. I'd say the app is optional. Yep. All right, we're gonna do one in the room.
Generated with frogs. Could that potentially be based on something that's copyrighted?
So the question is the image that I did based on the frogs, I think they were lizards. It's okay. And then they were gorillas. Are those based on copyrighted images? So part one is, I don't know for sure. But part two is, you can ask it for different styles and they kind of sort of all look alike. So I doubt it's based on a specific image. But I'm going to claim I don't know for certain.
Can you explain what a token is and how to use them?
What is a token and how to use it? That's a really great question. That goes back to my old computer programming days. I'm going to say for purposes of today, I don't know.
And Linda says she has no question, but thank you very much because this is really interesting.
Oh, well, good. Thank you, Linda. Okay. Looks like we might be winding down. Any more in the room? Oh, there's one. Yes, Nancy.
Experimented with giving the same prompt twice.
Oh, yeah.
And seeing if you get the same identical answer.
Okay. All right. So the question in the room is, have I experimented with giving the same prompt twice? And does it give the same identical answer? And so I've done a lot of that because I practice these a lot. And you will never get the exact same answer twice. Never. Sometimes it's a little different and sometimes it's a lot different. So
Jim, Brenda wants you to know that she's trying this as you speak and it's fabulous. And you gave me the courage to try. You succeeded in your mission.
that was my goal. My goal was to tempt one person into trying it. And who here thinks they might be tempted to go home and try it? Anybody? Yay. All right. Okay. Question in the back.
Downloading to your document. You produce the tape.
Mhm.
And you put that into Excel.
Yes. So remember the George Washington example? And so all I did was, you can do one of two things. You can sort of copy paste, drag and copy paste and paste it into Excel. Or a lot of them have, when they make a table, let's just see if there's one here. So I think we did a table for, who did we do a table for? Well, our obit extraction had a table. All right, and so, here's this table from the obituaries from the first example. And so see this little download table button right there. And so if I do that, now it's offering to save it as a CSV, a comma separated value thing, which can then be easily imported into Excel. Or I could just, sort of copy paste and paste it in. So yes, you can. Yes.
We don't go home and do a poem. Do you think they're all going to be very similar?
The question in the room is, if we all go home and do a poem, will they be similar? I promise you they will not. And I further promise you that I've written that poem half a dozen times in the last couple of days, and it's very different every single time.
Better reach?
Better is in the eye of the beholder, especially for poetry.
Got a bunch more thank yous and how wonderful you are.
Oh, shucks. All right. Any more questions? Anybody? Yeah. How about our Zoom friends?
Everybody saying thank you. It's excellent.
Okay.
For trying to. Mary wants you to know that she put it on her desktop and she thanks you for your encouragement.
Oh, great. All right. So thanks for coming. I'll see you all on May 3rd.
I just got a real quick thing. The library is doing that Genealogy University. And if you came to, check that off, you can go to, I don't know what it involves. Brent does. You see Brent though, if you came to fulfill that, go see Brent at the back table and you sign a book and then you get, this is counting to one of your university courses.
All right, and then just want to remind you that our open house is March 22nd. There are flyers on the tables. Jim's meeting today was kind of the appetizer. He designed it around our family history conference, which is going to be in May. That's going to be the main meal. And then we are also toying with possibly doing a workshop in the fall with Jim. So that's gonna be the dessert if that comes together. Thank you so much for coming today. Turn your phones on.
I think I would like